I think Berlin is an incredibly unfriendly city, being totally honest. And it makes me very sad because I think there's a lot of fantastic things about Berlin, and there's a lot of wonderful, wonderful people that live in it. Some of my best friends here are Berliners, and they're the nicest people I've ever met.
Right.
But there is, I think, a lack of friendliness here and openness, which I think creates a very hostile place to be day to day. I think everybody is quite uptight, a bit stressed. This guy then follows me because he doesn't trust me to go and take cash from the ATM and return. So he literally stands. I'm talking like this close, and I was like, "Sorry, can you give me some space, please? I'm really..." And I, like, my heart was pounding. Like, I thought he was going to honestly like mug me or something, or like honestly, or like be violent. And then he pushes out the way, and then he grabs the money from me as it pushes out of the ATM machine, and then walks back, and then he says, "You can go and get your stuff now and leave." I went home after that. No, honestly, it took me genuinely like the rest of the day to calm down. Like, I honestly went home in that moment. I'm not kidding. I could have left this country.
Yeah, it is always nice to see you guys, and always nice to chat with you. And welcome back to the next episode. My name is Henry Livingston. Today we're having a one-on-one with a guest that I'm about to introduce to you shortly. We've had a lot of these segments where we've been having different people come to the Onlyfacts studios, sharing their experiences in Germany, sharing their lifestyle and how everything has unveiled in the time of stay in Germany. And today I'm having a very special guest. That is why I'm having a very good feeling about this segment particularly. I'm having Lyle with me here. First of all, I was intrigued by the name. It is a very nice name. It's quite unusual, very mesmerizing to hear. And like I said, I'm having Lyle here, and I'll let him introduce. Am I using the right pronouns?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'll let him introduce himself in a while. But it's nice to see you guys. Nice to know that you're alive and kicking. Let us know how the weather is treating you in Berlin. And in a short while, I'll jump in right now. Lyle, good to have you at Onlyfacts Studios.
Thank you so much for having me. Nice to be here.
Thank you. How's the weather treating you so far?
The weather, I mean, as someone from Scotland, I don't do well in this heat. So I always have to take things a little slower in this weather, and I'm very susceptible to heat. So unfortunately, this is not my ideal time. I feel like everybody loves the summer in Berlin. I'm much more of an autumn winter person. So yeah, controversial, but for me, I love the seasons, and the summer is not at the top of the list, unfortunately. But nice to see the sun shining, because the rain actually the last few weeks has been really terrible. So yeah, I suppose in this, it's nice.
Living life as a Scottish is the segment for today, and we're joined by Lyle from Scotland. Lyle, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yes. So as you said, I'm from Scotland. I'm originally from Lanarkshire, which is a kind of area, just a suburb just outside Glasgow, around 30 minutes from the city of Glasgow. I've been in Berlin now for almost 3.5 years. I arrived here early 2022. It's crazy how fast time is going here. My background is marketing, PR, communications, and recently I've actually been making a pivot into lecturing and teaching here in Berlin. So after working almost 10 years in the corporate world for various brands and agencies, I wanted a bit of a 180 change. So stay tuned for how that goes.
So are you also teaching in the same field?
Yes, exactly. So as a native English speaker, well, actually there's two things. So as a native English speaker in Berlin, I saw an opportunity to teach English as one. I think in any big city like Berlin, there's always a huge array of internationals here. So with English not as their first language. So I teach English. Kind of 50%. And then the other half, yes, I lecture in various media universities on their public relations, digital marketing, communications programs. So using my real life, if I can say, industry experience and my master's degree in media and communications. So yeah, it's a really nice opportunity. And I'm pleased that I've made this little change. I think it was time. So
amazing. Can you take us a mile back of how it was while growing up in Scotland?
I love Scotland. I'm very, very proud to be from Scotland. I go back there as often as I can. I love it enough to say that I wouldn't want to live there right now. It's I mean, we're 5 million people, right? It's a small country.
Yeah.
Not a huge amount of opportunities. And I think like a lot of people, you want to see something different, you know, when you grow up. But I did study there. But both my bachelor's and master's was all in Scotland. But growing up, yeah, I mean, I would like to think I had a pretty, if I can use the word, normal childhood, you know, nothing really too crazy. Like I say, I was born in Lanarkshire. When I finished primary school, like kindergarten, we moved to the east coast of Scotland to a small fishing village called Pittenweem, which is near a town called St Andrews. Yeah. So that's more on the Edinburgh side of the country. So a few hours from the west, where I was born, near Glasgow. Yeah. So that's where most of my high school took place, my university. And I think all of those kind of growing up realizations and becoming yourself and realizing, you know, what you want to do, who you want to be, blah, blah. But yeah, I'm an only child. It's just me. My parents got it right the first time. There was no need for any more. So, no, I'm joking.
On point.
Yeah, I mean, what can I say? No, but I'm very close to my family. I'm very, very lucky to have my parents, an enormous support to me. We've always had dogs. We have 2 dogs still. In Scotland. So, yeah, love animals and loved having them growing up, taking them for walks on the beach and being outside. It was quite an active, you know, we always were a lot of walking and being outside and stuff. So yeah, it was lovely. I like I say, very, very lucky to have such a lovely place to be from and grow up, and a very safe place as well, Scotland, you know. I think, yeah, there's a lot of wonderful positives, but, as I say, it's a small place. Okay. So I think there was a time when I wanted to see bigger and better things, you know? So, yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. You know, as you mentioned, for you as a Scottish person, the weather in Berlin is something that maybe you're not used to. So maybe in terms of heat. How is it living in Scotland? Because we know it as a country that receives a lot of rain throughout the year. Yeah,
there's a lot of rain. That's why it's so green. We love the green. Yeah, we get a lot of rain. I mean, we have. I actually think, don't quote me on this, but I do think we have something like 300 plus days a year of rain. I mean, it's really, it's very intense. And actually, especially on the West Coast where I was born, actually, compared to the East, a bit drier. But yeah, the West is very wet. We always have this joke, you know, you get 4 seasons in one day in Scotland. You've got to pack for all weather eventualities. So, yeah, the weather is very different to Germany. The climate's different. It was definitely one thing I was not prepared for, actually, when I moved to Berlin. What was the extremities of the weather, actually, like very, very hot summers, but also very long, cold winters. The winters for me are normal. We have them in Scotland, but the summer here it's the humidity for one, but also how hot. I mean, we're sometimes into like high 30s. I mean, this is, in my opinion, also not normal for Europe, and especially not for Germany. I think climate change is really a real thing. But yeah, I think Berlin, especially, there's so much concrete. It's busy. It's a big city. It gets very, very, very hot. So yeah, for me, it's quite uncomfortable in the summer.
Well, I'm pretty sure everyone wouldn't want me to be asking you about the weather. So I'll jump straight into, so at what point does this change growing up in Scotland and a very, let's call it a decent childhood? At what point does this turn for you and be like, hey, now it's Germany?
Yes, I mean, it's a great question. So when I was 18, obviously finished high school, went straight to university. I didn't do any gap years or anything like this. And then when I finished my bachelor's degree, I moved to London. I was there over 5 years, again, doing PR, marketing, stuff like that. So all of my early days of my career were in London. Hugely valuable. I mean, an enormous learning experience. I mean, I was 22 when I graduated with my bachelor's, moved straight to London. I mean, this is something you cannot prepare yourself for how much of a wild sort of ride this was, and very different to Scotland. So I spent some time there, and then I took a year career break and went back to Scotland to do my master's in media and communications. I was aware that I was getting all of this experience in the industry, and I wanted to back that up with a master's because my bachelor's was history and politics and international relations, nothing to do with marketing, PR, communications. So I wanted the qualifications to back this up. And then if I can say, shit hit the fan with COVID, and the world kind of stopped. Just was coming to the end of my master's, and I moved back home for a short time, was kind of reevaluating, did some freelance work, saved a little bit, and was just feeling a bit stuck. Didn't want to go back to London. Tried living in Manchester for a few months. Just wasn't for me. And I think I knew deep down that I wanted to move to Europe. Obviously the complexities with Brexit have really made that enormously challenging in terms of where we can go and how easy we can get there. But a very good friend of mine, actually also from the Glasgow area, who is now living in Hamburg and married to a German guy, was back in Glasgow for a few weeks. This was after like the big lockdown, and we were able to travel a little bit again. And we hadn't seen each other for quite some time. And we caught up. We had some dinner and some drinks and got quite drunk, you know. Two people getting drunk, shocking in Scotland. such a surprise. And I think honestly, I think my anxiety was really just quite obvious at the time, and my mood was quite low, and I needed a bit of oomph. I needed to do something different, you know. And my friend said, "Oh, you know, what's wrong with you? You know, you look like you're down in the dumps, you know." Right. And she said, "Why have you not thought about coming to Germany?" Okay. And she knew that I wanted to move to Europe and stuff like that. And she said, "You know, they offer a 6-month job seeker visa. You know, if you've got savings, qualifications, you can come to Germany and offer your skills and try to make a life work there." Right. And I really hadn't thought about this. So I had about £5,000, maybe €6,000 at the time in savings. Not an enormous amount of money, but enough to initially get myself going. Right. Applied for the visa. Did this at the Edinburgh, German consulate. Applied. A few weeks later, got the visa. And I really I started reaching out to a few agencies and companies in Germany on LinkedIn, tried to schedule some coffee dates, meetings, interviews, came here, got a job initially at an influencer marketing agency. And then that was it. Just kind of the ball then continued to roll, and I was then able to stay, extended my visa. Yeah, to be honest, this was something that I'm very much someone that really is methodical and thinks about things so much. Right. And this was honestly, first of all, I booked the Edinburgh consulate appointment when I was drunk that evening when I came home from dinner. So I literally woke up the next day to oh, you have a termine at the Edinburgh consulate. And I was like, God, did I actually just do that? So, and then the whole thing really happened very spontaneous, and it was quite unlike me to be so irrational actually, and just act quite, laissez-faire, kind of blasé. Oh, let's just do it. But I don't regret it at all. And I mean, still here almost 3.5 years later. So it's been quite a ride. Right.
So coming to Germany as well, that's a new country. It's a new culture. It's a new language as well. Yeah. What was this for you? How did it feel like?
Yeah, it was a lot. Yeah. I think the funny thing was I'd been to Berlin once before. Okay. For a weekend before moving here.
Having fun?
I did have fun, but we were here for two nights, 3 days, right? You see a fraction of the city. You don't really know what it's about. You know, you do all the typical Mitte touristy things. Right. And that's about it. You know, so I mean, I knew as much about Berlin as you do in 48, 72 hours, you know, and that was it. That was literally all I had to go by. Didn't want to go to Bavaria because of how conservative it is. Thought realistically the only place for someone that's speaking English, that's international, that doesn't speak German, initially anyway, would be Berlin. It just for me, there was not even another option to consider anywhere else in Germany. So I didn't really explore other areas. That was never thought about. But at the same time, really, Berlin was unknown. It was very much learning as we go, adapting on the way, really learning and doing it at the same time. So yeah, it was a big culture shock. There's the amount of differences, just day-to-day life differences here. There's an enormous difference, I think.
Feel free to give me some examples if you feel like.
I think for me, the big thing is the friendliness in Berlin. I think Berlin is an incredibly unfriendly city, being totally honest. And it makes me very sad because I think there's a lot of fantastic things about Berlin. Yeah. And there's a lot of wonderful, wonderful people that live in it. Some of my best friends here are Berliners, and they're the nicest people I've ever met. Right. But there is, I think, a lack of friendliness here and openness, which I think creates a very hostile place to be day to day. I think everybody is quite uptight, a bit stressed. I would say the shoulders are up like this. Everyone's not really looking and smiling. You know, that there isn't this kind of sense of community feeling. Now, and coming from Scotland, that is one of our biggest assets. I mean, we are some of the friendliest. I mean, I'm a bit biased, but I also don't think so. I think it's actually true. We are some of the most friendly, open people. We always have that everyone's your best pal in Scotland. Like pal is like friend. Like my mum's like, oh, everybody's your best pal. You know, this is like really, and this is really what it's like. You know, the postman comes to the door and we have a wee chat to him for like 5-10 minutes. You know, this is what Scotland is like, and people help you and smile at you and ask how you're doing, small talk. That, in my opinion, there's a lack of that here, massively so. And so when you've been used to having that one way, and then you're forced to kind of be a different version of yourself when you communicate, actually, it's very difficult. And I struggle with this a lot, and I still do sometimes, even 3.5 years later. It's a big challenge. Really? So I would say this was number one. I was not prepared for that. Yeah, I mean, we can get into other things, but yeah, I would say that's a big thing for me.
That's a big thing
for sure.
You know, it is quite shocking to me because most people, if I ask most people that do not come from Germany, would point out Berlin as one of the most open and friendliest cities you could ever be in. So I was quite in shock that for you it was the opposite. But I would like to measure much more into that. Apart from the unfriendliness, what more do you think does really exist in Berlin that makes it a bit uncomfortable for people like you, for example?
Yeah, it's okay. I thought, well, first of all, I think there's a difference between unfriendliness and uncomfortable. I think let's make that clear.
All right.
It's not that I'm not comfortable here. I do feel, I like my life here. I'm very comfortable here day to day. But also that's because I think I've gotten used to being, 3.5 years down the line, things have changed. I've settled in. I've got friends. I've got my apartment. I've got my base here. I know what I'm doing. It's more this feeling, but again, in my experience, still though, never fully goes away. It's gotten better as I've created my own circle here.
Right.
But it's not just vanished, I think even, I always kind of compare it to London. I mean, the cities are very, very different, but they're a similar size in terms of, not population, but geographically how big they are. And everyone always kind of says, oh, Londoners can be very hot, kind of always like New Yorkers, like very hostile, a bit pretentious, a little bit, everyone's rushing, doing their own thing. But actually in London, yes, I found it quite a crazy city, a bit of a rat race, rush. But people are friendlier, 100%. But again, I think it's a British thing. This small talk, how are you doing? And people are asking because they actually do care. And I think here, I was very, there's no small talk, there's no interaction. And it's not, but then the thing that I had to learn was it's not personal. Germans, in my experience, would rather say something that is genuine or not bother. Yeah. They're not going to ask how I'm doing because they genuinely don't care how my day is. But that's also okay. Yeah. And I used to be really offended at this. I thought, oh my God, why would you not, I want to be asked, but actually it's okay that they don't care. And I also need to get over that, So navigating these social dynamics was exhausting actually for me because it's not in my personality to, well, as you can probably see, I say a lot. So, shocking, right? So it's not in my personality to be holding back in this way, right? Yeah. So this was very strange in the beginning. But like everything else, you learn to deal with it. Not everybody is like that. In my I live in Prenzlauberg. In my little Keats, there are some lovely local coffee shops and little retail shops, and the staff are very friendly. So again, obviously there is somewhat a generalization here. It's not all like that, but I do think there is a general lack of friendliness.
Right.
Period. Period.
Okay. I'm not letting you get off the hook yet.
Oh, God. Okay.
I still really want to go deeper into this. There is a speculation, or I'll phrase it this way. It is alleged that there is an attitude that Germans, I won't say entirely the whole of German or the whole the all German people and so on, but some Germans do give people that are struggling with German as a language. Did you notice this in any way, or did it comfort you in any way that there is a certain attitude that they express toward you as a person that does not speak their language?
Yes, massively so. Yes. This is another thing that I still, after quite some time now in the country, that I am continually stunned at, actually. And I know that I'm not alone when I share this sentiment. You know, friends of mine have similar experiences and they really struggle with it. I am lucky that I can, you know, some people are not the most apt with language learning. You know, it's like me in maths. I'm terrible with numbers, and that's never going to change. You know, I'm lucky that I'm a good communicator and I'm quite good with languages. I'm not fluent in German, but I have learned a lot organically in the 3.5 years that I've been here, and it's continually getting better. My listening, I can understand sometimes 70-80% of a conversation, but I will reply in English because I don't like speaking German. I feel uncomfortable speaking it. I don't feel like I'm coming across authentically when I speak it because I'm overthinking and analyzing the grammar, the structure, the der, die, das, einem, sie, einen. You know, it's too much for me. You know, so. But I have made an effort to try and learn some. I've done classes at the Volkshochschule. As you can imagine, that was quite an experience.
I would imagine.
You know, but I have made an effort, and I do agree and totally listen to this argument that, you know, we are in Germany. You absolutely need to speak and learn German for sure. However, English is not very often, it is this kind of lingua franca, this kind of like language that is a commonality that is spoken by non-natives to each other as a means of common communication. It is also, and then you can go to the European Union website and Google it and research if you don't believe me, but it is also the working common framework language of the European Union, not French, not German, not Swedish, not Dutch, English. Yeah. Now, it's very important to speak the language, I think, if you're living in a country for an extended period. But it stuns me that Germany, one of the world's largest economies, the biggest economy in the European Union, has got this genuine phobia of English. I think it mind boggles me because I think they have got so much potential as a country. There is so many wonderful companies, people, opportunities here, but I really think this lack of English lets them down. Now, there are many companies here and people that speak fabulous English. Once again, this is somewhat a generalization, but this fallacy, and that's in my opinion what it is, a fallacy, that Berlin is so international and so diverse and so English forward. No, it isn't. There are people here that genuinely do not speak a word. And I think younger people also, and I find this crazy, you know, so much of the world is in English. The media we consume, the songs we listen to, the books we read. I really couldn't believe how behind Germany was with this. And it's evident across all aspects of their public sector, in their hospitals, and that, you know, when you go to a doctor here, you know, I have friends living in Copenhagen and Amsterdam and stuff. It's not the same. They do not have the same struggle. And again, I appreciate that German it's also a very useful language. It's a widely spoken language and we should learn it and speak it here. But they're welcoming all these internationals and wanting to diversify. You've got to also make English out of it, especially in things like the immigration office, you know, the Bürgeramt, these, you know, it's a shame that I think it lets them down. You know, the public service in a country is one of the first things that an expat has experience of.
Right.
And it's terrible. And it's disappointing, you know, and there's so much room for it to be better. I think that's what frustrates me.
Wow, Lyle, you know, you've mentioned a very good aspect here. And one of our most trending videos on social media lately, the one that has been trending, it has also been something that has to do with language, where we had a guest that mentioned you go to Arbeitsamt, for example, you go to Bürgeramt, and the people that are supposed to work there do not have any knowledge of English and so on, or they hesitate to speak because they are not allowed to speak the language and so on. So, but do you think this is something that has to do with the Germans promoting their culture more, or Germans promoting their language more, or is it something that we do not know English and we do not want to know?
I always find it funny because I think, Germans are not stupid people.
No.
The opposite, in fact, really quite the opposite. Yeah. And there's always this kind of, Kein English. And they really are terrified that they hunch out and they get really uncomfortable. And then sometimes they'll say, okay, I try. 2 minutes later, they're speaking like completely fluent English. I was like, we could just have avoided this awkwardness. You clearly speak English. Yeah. You are an intelligent person. Like it's, so I wonder if it's a bit of, I think it's a mixture of things. I think potentially it's a bit of lack of self-belief, maybe a bit of nervousness, a bit of hesitation, but also I think, what's very interesting, especially with Berlin, also, with Hamburg and some of the other cities, but Berlin in particular as the capital, Berlin is gentrifying and digitizing and changing at a rate, and the sheer influx of immigrants into this country and internationals is unbelievable. And what I think is happening is Germany is unable to keep up with this rate of rapid change versus how many people are coming in. Yeah. And of course, this kind of goes back to what I'm saying before about this common framework language being English. Unfortunately, in these situations when you have 2 or 3 non-native speakers of English speaking other languages as a mother tongue, English is the common method of communication. Right. Nine times out of 10. I can see why that's probably frustrating for a lot of, not just Germans, but for French people, for Swedish people, for Danish people. If any other country that isn't, but also I didn't make the rules. It's not my fault that English is this lingua franca. I didn't decide that. It's just the way that it is. Who made it? So it's just something that it's just the way that it is. And I think Germany, when you look at France also, I think is terrible for it. They're not really embracing this. It's still seen as a hindrance, and I think that's a shame because it's just disappointing to be when you're an expat here, because it just makes everything more difficult. And German's hard to learn. You're not going to learn this in a few months, even in a there needs to be, unfortunately, a bit of give and take here. And I think Germans don't realize how difficult it is to get started here, and having a bit of actually, even just before I came here, there's a little ice cream shop next door. Okay. And I had a bit of time to kill and it was warm. I thought, okay, get an ice cream. And obviously started to order in German. And then I couldn't pronounce it. And she said, sorry, is English better? And then I said, oh, would you mind? She said, no, of course. She said, where are you from? And I said, she said, oh my God, I love Scotland. I would love to go there. And then she talked about the Harry Potter films and how she wants to see the Hogwarts train going up through and then this other guy came over that was also working there and just joined it. And I honestly, I've never had that in a shop like that. They were so, and I was so not expecting, especially in Weissensee or somewhere like this, where a little bit out of the center. I was like, wow, God, and see the difference. I thought, thanks so much for that. That was really helpful. So, my God, no, of course, no problem. And that I cannot tell you, even after 3.5 years, those little interactions, just being a bit more helpful to someone. Right. This is the game changer. This is what makes people feel at home in a place. And I think if we just had a little bit more of that, Berlin would feel totally different. Really, I really feel strongly about that.
Absolutely. Well, I think that is a good connection to the bureaucracy that is becoming a nightmare for many people in Germany as well. I would want to get your experience on that as well, because I'm pretty sure the 3 years now that you've lived in Germany as well, 3.5, you've been obviously on several occasions been confronted with a lot of paperwork. Yeah. Analog as well. And the bureaucracy in Germany. So how is it if you could run?
It's no joke. So as I said, obviously earlier, Brexit has massively changed the way that Brits can obviously, our free movement in the European Union has totally been removed. Everything we do requires a visa, a residence permit, a work permit, whatever you want to call it. So of course, I think, that, and that's not Germany's fault. It's our crazy fault for voting for this disastrous decision. But it still devastates me. This decision, really, it's someone that wants to live abroad and be overseas. The complexity and the layers of confusion and the navigation that is required with this is unbelievable. So I think, as I said, that's not a German problem. That's a Brexit problem. Okay. I think Germany is probably still a bit, it is more bureaucratic and a bit difficult in general compared to other countries, Brexit or no Brexit. But certainly the Brexit has added a level of complexity, aka visa, residence permit, dealing with immigration, dealing with the public authorities. Like you say, the paperwork involved. It's a lot of effort. It's exhausting navigating it. But then, of course, there's the other things that would be par for the course anyway when you're in Germany, your Anmeldung and the navigating the Krankenkasse and all the healthcare system and the card for this and a card for that, keeping all your Deutschland TV radio document fees and all these letters. So I think there is a lot more letters and paper and things to deal with in Germany than the average country. But Brexit is not Germany's fault. And that's our problem to deal with. And for sure, it's complicated things. Absolutely. Yeah.
Speaking about Brexit, because many people from Scotland or UK entirely, they did really, they were on the other hand of this, they wanted this, in other words. And I don't know, correct me, but how does it come that many are now quite on the other side, they are opposing it? They're like, okay, this is the last thing that could have happened to us, maybe. So where does the wish for Brexit come in, and then reaching up and be like, okay, now we don't need Brexit anymore. This is something that we shouldn't have done. Maybe we shouldn't have separated ourselves from other countries.
Yeah. The problem is, there isn't one answer to this question. It's a series of events, and Brexit also was a long time coming as well. Brexit didn't just happen overnight either. If you go back to the results, and if you look at the way the UK voted, Scotland actually unanimously voted to remain in the European Union. And this is something I'm forever proud of. Almost 80% of Scots voted to remain. So Brexit was not our choice. Of course, there were some that voted, but generally speaking, it was an English issue, in particular regions of the south of England and farming communities, and also more conservative voters that wanted this idea of a strong union that's our own independent nation. They were thinking we're going to be like Norway or Switzerland, and it's just not happened, because they also have this European Economic Area movement that we do not have. Right. And the Brexit deals that were made, or more lack of deals that were made, and disastrous deals that were made during the transition period, were about trade and about just general neighbouring relations and allyship, and it's not served in the interest of the British public at all. And this is why you still even have now our newest Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, is having to kind of claw back this disastrous legacy left by the Tories and the Brexit party. But also now you've got Nigel Farage, who is part of Reform UK, who is trying to become our next Prime Minister. And he was the biggest advocate and leader of the Brexit party. God only knows what will happen if he comes into power, because I can't even imagine it. But I think it's very, very sad. I think Britain has really, we've isolated ourselves. We were such a core part of the EU before, and we had so much in common with other nations, and people always kind of, loved the Brits and our humor and our banter. And I just think we've really isolated ourselves. And even I think if you look at a lot of people that voted for Brexit, and they've seen now the impact that it's had on our cost of living, on our groceries, on our fruit and veg that would come from Germany, Spain, the Netherlands, Italy, France, our wines, our cheese, our dairy, it's not all coming just from the UK, it's very evident, I think cost of living is getting more expensive everywhere, period. Right. But I see it, and I say this to my parents when I go back all the time, that I really see it in the UK. Groceries especially, and fuel, petrol, diesel, astronomically high, much, much higher than here.
Right.
So I think Brexit has been a disaster. I think it is an embarrassing vote. And I think we have really isolated ourselves with our European relations and our neighboring countries. And I think it's very, very sad that, for example, I did the Erasmus exchange program during my bachelor's degree. I went to Stockholm in Sweden for a year. As part of the European Union, we could do this. That's not available anymore to some of our students. We're having to actually actively work with the EU to try and get some special rules made that we can still participate in this program. It's not just an automatic guarantee anymore. And I just think things like this is genuinely limiting our opportunities.
Yeah. All right. But coming back to Berlin, of course, I don't know what else to be far away from home. This is what I call Berlin. So coming back to Berlin, well, how was it for you getting into, because you mentioned you have friends as well, right? And I would want to know how it was for you, because everyone has different experiences, judging from the way I see you. You're a white person, if I may use that term as well. How was it for you getting into the German friend groups?
Okay, yeah, that's a very good question. I think, well, what I will say, I was lucky that I knew one person who is British German who actually studied and lived with me in Scotland when we were studying together. So I knew her before I moved to Berlin, and that was an amazing start because you have this kind of connection and a sort of a safety net almost. And she was an enormous help with me in terms of the early days of navigating the apartment search, the Anmeldung, all those kind of things. She then introduced me to other people. So of course you've got a foundation to start with. Right. But also I think, when you said there, the German friendship groups, I never, and actually I think this is quite important to say this. I try to not think of it like that because for me, that's quite segregating, for me, I love people. I love talking to people. I love building relationships with people. Whether you're German, whether you're European, whether you're Scottish, whether you're from Asia, whether you're American, wherever, I don't care. If you're a friend, you're a friend. So obviously, I have many international friends, but the majority of my friends do happen to be German at this moment. So I wouldn't say navigating that was difficult. We certainly and still do come across areas that we have different views on things, or we behave or react differently in sort of situations or environments. We have disagreements like everything else. But as I said in the beginning of this, they have been and continue to be the biggest support here, and they are some of the best people I've ever met, and they are so far from this cold, unfriendly, this Berlin attitude. They could not be less like that. So I'm lucky that I have them, and I definitely don't think I would still be here, to be honest. If you don't, you need good friends anywhere, but I think Berlin particularly because it's so big and it's spread out, and you need to find your little niche here, and the people that also fit your vibe. And for me, that's essential.
Supplementing on this, why have I asked this question? Because we've had several guests here, and we've interviewed several guests who are maybe expats or came to Germany for several reasons. Yeah. And this is quite a question that many have reacted to differently. Some have had difficulties getting into these groups. Yeah. But obviously, I don't know. Help me understand this. Do you think it had something to do with your skin color? You're a white person. Maybe there wasn't this barrier in between you getting into the groups as well. Maybe it made, in one way or the other, maybe it made it easier for you.
Wow. It makes me so sad that we still even have to ask these questions. It makes me, it makes me sick.
I understand, but it's the reality.
It is the reality, and I'd hate to agree with you, but you are right, unfortunately. Look, I'm not going to sit here and I actually speak about this often with my friends. Look, I'm not going to sit here and deny my privilege as a white person. Absolutely not. I'm a white middle class male that is, cisgendered, that is from a Western country, a white Western country that has financial security, parents that love me. I've always lived in private homes and private housing and never had to live on the streets and I'm not going to sit here and deny my privilege. I have a lot of privilege, 100%. And it's important to know your privileges because a lot of people don't realize them and they're sitting right on them. So that's first and foremost. I think to bring it back to the friendship thing, I'm embarrassed to maybe admit I've maybe not thought about that as much, to be honest. But then I also, why would I? Which again is terrible, because we should be thinking and talking about these things more. I would like to hope that it hasn't been the only reason I've made friends, because my friends here are not all white.
Okay.
And they're not all cisgendered, and they're not all straight, and so, you know, I have a pretty diverse friend group, I would say. The majority, yes, they are white. But I also don't think that is an issue with me connecting with people of other skin colors.
Okay.
And I would certainly hope that it's not the reason why someone would not be permitted into a group, if I can say it like that. Because I think Germans do take a little bit longer, I think, to work on them to become friends. You know what I mean? Some of my good friends, one of my best friends here, we actually met through a work, my old manager. We connected at a spin class actually one morning, and I had to weeks and weeks of actively speaking to him in the class, getting his Instagram, sending him out, oh, should we do coffee? Should we get a drink? You've got to really work on them, I think, to earn that friendship. But once you're in the circle, they are the most reliable people.
Absolutely.
That is for sure.
100%.
And this is one thing that I will say is maybe not the case as much in the UK. There's a lot of this surface level kind of conversation language. And I think this is why a lot of the Germans have got no time for small talk, because it's wasting time. They've got their good friends, they've got their true connections, and for them, that's what matters.
Yeah.
You know? So it's funny how, you know, I'm pivoting my thoughts and I'm thinking about it in a different way because the longer that I'm here. Yeah, so I hope that kind of answered that question.
Absolutely. It really does answer my questions. But I want to go to your line of work. What you're doing here in Germany specifically. Have you been, as of yet, encountered or have you been confronted with any challenges in that line of work that would say, okay, this was blowing me away?
I mean, just in general, or
in general.
I think I more experienced it in the corporate world and kind of marketing PR than I have in the academic world. You know, nothing majorly problematic in that. You know, I mean, I have had difficult bosses. You know, there's been some. I think the way that Germans can speak to you in the workplace is incredibly direct. You know, in meetings, and that, you know, for one of my my old bosses, she was Arabic German, and did this to me, and I mean, she said, shh, you know, and really with the hand, and I sat there gobsmacked. I didn't know how to react to this. So, you know, and the blunt emails, very direct. But again, it's not meant actually as personal. I took it very personal because I lead with my heart. I'm a very emotionally led and emotionally driven person. And I think Germans are not as much. They are practically driven, logistically driven, very rational thinking. And I can often be a bit erratic and irrational. So sometimes this clash is quite evident, you know, in terms of how we would approach things, how we would think about things creatively, logically, the way we would discuss things in meetings. I'm always a bit of an oversharer. I use that as a kind of a mechanism of kind of coping with stress and connecting with people. And it's not everyone's way of doing things. No. And some of my German colleagues were not a fan of this, and it got flagged many times that they felt uncomfortable. They felt I was being a bit too unprofessional. It was a little bit too much, and being made to feel a bit almost being made to feel a bit stupid and a bit embarrassed for just having a personality and being a bit upbeat and a bit enthusiastic. So that took a bit of getting used to. I had to tone down, and I would say the communication thing and the directness was quite hard to navigate. Yeah.
And is it something that you would say has been difficult for you to adapt to, or?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Again, because it's as I said earlier, you know, it's
how is it in Scotland?
Well, not like that.
Well, how
not like that.
Exactly.
No, it's a bit friendlier. For sure. But again, devil's advocate, look at both sides. We probably spend so much time, oh, I'm so sorry, and I'm so this, and I'm so this. And we skirt around the outside a bit too much. We don't just get to the point, and so, we probably also waste a lot of time with unnecessary communication also. So it's two ways to look at things.
All right. So, I wouldn't take you much deeper into that. Okay. I think that already answers my question, actually. But since, any person that has challenges as well, has had also some positive things that have happened to them. What could you say are some of your most positive things that you've had so far in Germany?
So Germany, I think just the fact that I've been able to come here and really build a new life from scratch. This was something that I'm very proud of. It's sometimes, I think, life can, for everybody, life can be hard, right? There are days where you wake up and you think, God, what's this all about? What is this? But sometimes, I do, when I look back at, God, even the other week, actually, I was having a clear out of my desk drawer with various documents and stuff, and I look back at the old flat that I subletted initially in my first 6 months, and all the documents, and I think, God, come a long way since then. Found my nice little apartment, my little friends. I've got it all furnished. I found my little areas that I like to go to. Cycle around on my bike, and I run my little errands, and I've got this little European life that I was dreaming of. It sounds stupid, but that's what I wanted, and I've made it happen. It's been for sure some of the most challenging periods of my life, but also some of the most rewarding. I think I've grown up enormously. I've learned a lot about myself. And also something that actually my friends and I are speaking about a lot at the moment as well, is that learning to say no to things and being really okay with that, and protecting your energy, and being cautious and more careful of who you give your time to and for how long and in what capacity. So I'm proud of the kind of person I'm becoming here, I think. All while dealing with, again, the challenges of just navigating work and a career transition and life in a foreign country. It's not easy. So I think that just the general situation and the life that I've created, I'm proud of. And then I think I'm also, blessed, and as much as I can sit here and, of course, there's things in Germany I don't like, I don't agree with, I can criticize, just as I'm sure they would criticize about Scotland or the UK or somewhere else. Everywhere's got its issues, nowhere's perfect. But Germany has been incredibly good to me, very much so. Even when I was unemployed for a period, being able to get financial support here, the social security system, seeing me through that transition into a new career, letting me keep my apartment here. My friends coming with me to these appointments, and the emotional support also. So Germany has been very, very good in other ways. It's not all bad here, far from it. And like I say, I'm still here after 3.5 years. I wouldn't still be here if I didn't like it here. It's very, very up and down, and it's definitely, I would say, an emotional roller coaster being here. But I think that the pros really do outweigh the cons. And I'm trying to really see the good in things. I think it's easy to be negative. Right. But we've got a lot to be grateful for, really.
Do you miss Scotland?
I do, very much. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. Miss my parents enormously. I guess I get a bit emotional when I think about it sometimes, because I really... I feel like another thing, if I can touch on this actually briefly, is I think I've noticed in Germany, and I don't know if you've also thought this, I think there is quite a lack of national pride in Germany, generally. I find this quite interesting.
In what way?
You don't see a lot of German flags. You don't see a lot of people really talking about the things they love here, and it's all quite kind of day to day. It's quite kind of bog standard. I don't think Scotland. We have such a pride in our history, and the bagpipes, like the Dudelsack in German. And our culture, and the kilt, the tartan and things. We've got so many things that we love, and I think Bavaria is very proud. I think I see a lot of that in the south, but I don't really see a lot of that in the northern part of Germany, and I think it's quite sad, because There's a lot of great things about Germany.
There are. I mean, Germany has had some good and bad history as well.
Totally.
But I think the most criticized one is the bad history that it does have. And that is why, for most people, I believe that for most people, if you find a German flag in someone's home, there is always a thought that comes, okay,
yes,
which side does this person fall to? And so it raises a lot of questions in someone's head. So I think that is, according to I think that is why most Germans distance themselves from this, or maybe feel like they need, because coming from Germany, changing their national anthem to a lot of things have been happening. So I, in a way, can relate as to why some people do distance themselves. I mean, of course, Britain has not also had the best history, but they're still proud. For example, Scotland is proud as well. A lot of people are proud of their history.
Yeah,
but for Germans, I don't know. But maybe they should be more proud. For example, you mentioned Bayern. It's a good culture to be proud of, for example.
I think, and again, I think it's great that, my friends and I, we have very healthy debates about things like this, and again, we agree and disagree on various things, and it doesn't affect our relationship in any way. And I think it's important to have these conversations because you really shouldn't forget the past, because in many ways it's starting to repeat itself, which is terrifying. I think Germany, more than others, has had an enormous amount of upheaval in its history. There's been a huge amount of change in what it's been through in the last kind of 100, 150 years, much more than the average country, I think. And Germany's really had to almost reinvent itself. And I think I think don't underestimate the complexities around that and what that the impact that must have on certain generations that are still living through this and remember the Second World War, that remember the fall of the wall. And Germany's had to come through the other end of so much turmoil and turbulence. And I think it's admirable how they're starting to rebuild themselves. They've got a lot of work to do in many ways, as we've spoke about, but I think, a lot of my friends say, they still feel like their generation kind of is associated with the war and it's associated with these negative perceptions. And I think that's terrible. I really, really feel strongly that it's not, we shouldn't ever forget it, but it's also not our generation's problem.
No.
And it's not fair and it's not right that this kind of uncomfortable and unfair legacy continues to be placed on younger generation, because it's got nothing to do with them and they should not have to carry that burden. I think they should be remembered and I think they should be taught it at school and learn what happened, but it's not their fault. It's got nothing to do with that generation. So I really feel strongly about that.
So I would want to jump into your dating life as a cisgender person. How is your dating life in Berlin?
Oh my goodness me. So I'm a gay man. But yes, my pronouns are he, him. I'm cisgendered, absolutely. I'm very proud to be part of the LGBTQ community. I think in Berlin this is also quite a minefield to navigate. There are a lot of us here. And I think, like most big cities, the community can be rather sexually driven, quite hard to date. People are a little bit complex. I think everyone here is in an open relationship. Everyone here is polyamorous. Everyone here is up for anything and everything. And here's me sitting here with my boat shoes and my loafers and thinking like, I just want a man that's going to drive me to around Kudam when his little, with a little rose, in his mouth, no, but I definitely am looking for, it sounds so cliche, my God, but I would love to obviously find like Mr. Right. I'm not looking for this, casual sex encounters. I've had my fair share of them like everybody else. And honestly, I think anyone that says they haven't is lying. I will say that right now, because we all have needs. Let's just be honest. So I'm not buying into that people haven't dipped their toe in the water. But I think for me, I'm 31, actually closer now to 32, which is also terrifying. I'm looking for a bit more than just casual sex. And unfortunately, I think people... Am I allowed to say the word dick? People lead with their dick and not their head. So sorry, but it's true. It is. So I'm trying to not be like that. I think this gets very boring, and I need more than just that. I need more than physical. I think this gets old very quickly. So yeah, I mean, I've had my fair share of dates. I am on the apps, quite active on the apps.
Okay.
Not Grindr, but because that's really terrible. We don't do Grindr. But yeah, I mean, the chat is a bit stale sometimes on these. Tinder's terrible as well. God, the chat's terrible.
It's becoming a nightmare right now for everybody. Yeah.
Are you single? I should be asking the questions.
I am.
You are.
I am. I mean, that is what
that's
Berlin.
Terrible. You shouldn't be.
That is what
shocking.
Berlin is. Isn't it what Berlin is making to all of us? I mean, literally, we've had a guest who came at the studios and was like, you come to Berlin with a family and boom, it's the end of it. Like you come to Berlin with a partner, that's the end of the road. So,
yeah, honestly.
I feel like everyone is single in Berlin. And people that find love to find it maybe in secret places or maybe in different areas, but specifically not Berlin. It's not made for that.
I didn't realize this open relationship thing was actually such a thing. Like when I was living in London, right, and obviously you come across the odd, and at the time I was like, oh my God, what a novelty! Like they're open, that's amazing, wow. And then it's every second, buddy, every Tom, Dick, and Harry's buddy in an open relationship here. It's like everyone's getting with everyone, and oh yeah, we've been married for 10 years, and I just said, but you just go and casually get with someone else and then come home and have your dinner at night. I mean, I find it very odd. It's not for me. But you know what? Who am I to judge? We've all got our issues. If that makes you happy, honey, you do it. But no, it's not for me.
Absolutely. All right. We would like to venture into a different aspect, and that is the life of expats, as we also considering the time as well. Yeah, absolutely. We would like to venture into the aspect of expats coming here. What advice or what do you think expats can learn from your experience as a person that has come in Germany and worked here as well?
Yeah, so I think expect the unexpected, definitely. I think over-prepare. Really, I mean, if you think like the worst thing is gonna happen, think of something even worse than that, because really it can get heavy. So just be prepared for all eventualities. Really, I think know what you're getting yourself into 100%. Do not underestimate how difficult it is. Really, it can be. It's challenging. Things take a long time. Processing times are slow. Finding an apartment's a nightmare. I mean, it's a lot, right? Yeah. So, and do not walk into that like I did willy-nilly, because I really walked in willy bloody nilly, like with the biggest emphasis. Like I was so blind to this, thought it would be fine, thought I would sweep in and everything would fall together. 3.5 years later, I'm still figuring it out, you know? So it's that, and I think this is really, it's almost like in Berlin, I think you'll never be done with these ongoing logistical challenges. There's always something.
Right.
So be prepared for that. Do your research, I think. And also, honestly, research the Kietzes, like the areas, because genuinely, it mind blows me how different it is when you go from like Prenzlauberg to Neukölln, from Neukölln to Charlottenburg, from Charlottenburg to Mitte. Every vibe is so different, and you need to understand and figure out where you're going to be happy, because the reality is Berlin is so massive and it takes an hour to get anywhere, and also because BVG is a disaster. So let's just also get to the point. If the U5 was running on time, we'd all be happier. So no, but really, you know, you will spend so much time in your Kiez, you know, and you need to be happy there. My first like 6, 7, no, maybe even a bit more, 8, 9 months actually. I was in Friedrichshain. I was at Frankfurter Tor, like right at the 2 buildings on Karl Marx Alley. Hated this area. It was like a big concrete jungle. There was no trees. The tram lines were going. I was on the 4th floor of the front house. Incredibly noisy, hot.
Seen a lot of police down there as well.
So many police sirens. There was a Späti below the building, and then a kebab shop, typical Berlin. You know, like not the demographic of people that were around there. I didn't feel particularly safe in the evenings. It was a bit crazy. It was very dirty. Moving to Prenzlauberg changed everything. I genuinely love living there. It is a totally different experience. So really think about where you want to be. Don't just go to the places you think, oh my God, that's where everyone goes. I'm going to love it there. Because if that was the case, everybody would just go to Kreuzberg, or everybody would just go to North. And it's like, no, it's not for everyone. You need to really think about where you're going to live in Berlin.
Right. So one of my last questions, what is your future plan? Are you planning to live longer here, or are we looking at a new town abroad, a new country now?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, being honest, I can't see myself settling in Germany, to be totally honest. And it makes me feel, it fills me with a bit of sadness when I say that, because, you know, I think I've really given so much here. It's always given me a lot, you know. And I mean, I've poured my heart and soul into the life that I've built here. It's not come easy. But I think ultimately, you know, I mean, I love Hamburg. I like Munich, beautiful cities. But it's just not for me long term, I don't think. But also, I would love to. I love being in Europe. I want to stay in Europe for sure. But I would also like to be in a slightly smaller capital like Stockholm, Amsterdam, Copenhagen, even Vienna. Actually, Vienna's amazing. I really that's somewhere nice, somewhere a bit more clean, a bit more beautiful, a bit more aesthetically pleasing. Berlin is unfortunately not the most quintessentially pretty of cities. There's beautiful parts of it, but it's missing that little something that I'm looking for. But yeah, I think, you know, I've had some wonderful opportunities here. I'm continuing to have some good opportunities in this new, like I said, this new kind of career path.
Right.
I will most certainly be here for a couple of more years for sure. Obviously it will depend on I might meet the love of my life when I walk out the door of this studio.
Who
so
knows?
You never know that I'm going to be here forever. So
right.
You just don't know.
Right.
I think, never say never, because you just don't know what's going to happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So, you know, it has become a ritual for us to ask one of your best days and worst days in Berlin. So if you could let me know.
I don't know if we've got time for that.
Well,
no.
It's getting good.
The best days and the worst days. Oh God.
The worst day and the best day. Yeah.
Okay. One of the worst days was, this was, oh my God. So I hadn't long moved into my new apartment. Loved being in the area, loved the vibe, blah, blah, blah. And I had to get my hair cut. Now, I actually struggle. I have a bit of psoriasis. Do you know what that is on your scalp? It's like a bit of like a dry and red like skin condition.
Okay.
And it very much flares up and calms down a bit with stress and with like certain things that I eat and things and like intolerances and everything. So, the scalp is a very common area to get it. So whenever I get my hair cut, I need to be quite careful of the way that it's cut, because I don't want them to show like the red marks around the side and the back of the head, right? And I booked an appointment at this salon in Prenzlauberg, in between Eberswalde and Schönhauser Allee. 5 minutes bike from my place. I thought, this is great. This place looks lovely. And my Keats, blah, blah, great. Booked to go in. The woman didn't speak a word of English. And I left. Now the website, the website was in German and English, which is a reason why I also booked it. I'm also quite wary of this. I think you learn how to navigate, like, where's the vibe and things like that, especially with the English thing. And when you booked, in the comments box, you could leave like a remark, like a note of what to expect. And I just said, you know, first time here, new to the neighborhood. I've heard good things about this place. Would really appreciate if someone could communicate with me in English. And then I said, I have got a skin condition on my head. I said, there's a particular way that I like to get my hair cut. So it was quite obvious, you know, and I thought, well, if they're including this box, the person's going to read this when they're looking at this booking. I go in, the woman is like not really friendly. She takes me over to the seat. We sit down, and a few kind of comments were made at the side of my chair, because I was off English and Ausländer, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, okay. And I just instantly started feeling uncomfortable. And then, you know, the Germans in the steering, they kind of start to get involved and look at you. And then it's all a bit heavy, you know. So then I had to use my phone to translate. Everyone else there in the salon had a tea or a coffee or a drink. I wasn't offered anything. They didn't take my bag, didn't take my coat, was treated totally differently from everyone else. This was the worst haircut I've ever had in my life. Basically think of everything that you ask for, and then they didn't do that. They did the opposite. I still have images actually of my scalp that I tried to take. I mean, you could just see I was crying when I finished this haircut. This woman did not listen to a word that I said. And when I got up, I said, I don't think I should have to pay for this haircut because I'm really, look at my hair. This is absolutely terrible. And she started rolling her eyes. She said, oh my God, I can't. And then she just walked away from me. She said, what is it with the hand thing? They did do this with the hand. They kind of went and then went into the back. And she got someone out that could speak English. I was like, oh, hallelujah. There is someone that speaks English here.
Yeah.
And I was taken outside. But then we started having this conversation in the building. And I was like, everyone's getting involved. And I was like, this is a little bit embarrassing. Can we maybe take this outside? I was like, I'm quite upset, look at this. It's not, and she said, no, I can see that. I'm really, really sorry. She said, have a seat, what can we do? And then a guy, they were joined to this barber shop that was on the corner, like kind of around the other side of the street. And this guy then comes round who's working at the barber shop. Typical Berliner, like bald, shaved head, tattoos all over his face, his arms, head to toe black. Again, you could look at me and look at him. We were not going to exactly see eye to eye. It was not exactly a match made in heaven, right? And then he was kind of like, he was listening to me and stuff. And then he kind of almost started smiling as I was telling him this really terrible thing that happened. And I could feel myself getting so worked up. And I said, sorry, can I ask why you're smiling just now? I said, I'm really, really upset. And he said, because, sir, if I'm not smiling, you don't want to know what you're going to feel like. Okay. And I was like, was that, are you threatening me right now?
That sounds like a threat.
And then I don't know what happened in this moment, but all of a sudden everything changed. Like his mood, like it was really giving like bipolar. Like honestly, like something happened in that moment. This man's eyes and his whole body language like went from 0 to 100 like that. And he then went on this tangent about, you are so entitled. You English people come. I said, first of all, I'm actually not English. I said, I'm actually from Scotland. He said, you come in here and you just fucking expect everyone to speak English. Has it ever crossed your stupid mind that people in this city don't want to speak like you anymore? We're sick of it. You come in here and he was really letting rip. He was not holding back. And I was like, I'm not even dealing with it. I said, I'm not paying for this here. And then he said, you don't pay, we're calling the police.
No.
And I said, call the police. I said, that's fine. I said, because I've got a case. I said, you're on camera here. And then, I then just at the point where I was like, do you know what? Actually, I need to get away from here. And I could feel myself. I was actually like, shit, I've never had like this in my life. And the people in the salon are now at this point, like one of the women's like standing up with her, like the hair still on her, like getting cut in the robe and everything. She's now standing watching this at the front door. This guy then follows me to classic Germany, no card payments, only cash, obviously. I was like, yeah, call yourself a salon, like really? So then we walk halfway along the street. He follows me because he doesn't trust me to go and take cash from the ATM and return. So he literally stands. I'm talking like this close. And I was like, sorry, can you give me some space, please? I'm really, and my heart was pounding. Like I thought he was going to honestly like mug me or something, or like honestly, or like be violent. And then he pushes out the way and then he grabs the money from me as it pushes out of the ATM machine and then walks back and then he says, you can go and get your stuff now and leave. I went home after that. No, honestly, it took me genuinely like the rest of the day to calm down. Like I honestly went home in that moment. I'm not kidding. I could have left this country. I could have honestly in that moment left this country. I have never, ever been spoken to, treated like that. I continually think about this and it's horrible because I cycle past this place often and every time I see them and I honestly get anxiety and it's horrible.
That is a horrible thing to happen.
So I felt embarrassed, disgusting because of my hair, treated like trash, stupid and just horrible. Could not have felt lower.
And the fact that you had to pay for it.
Yeah, 45 euros.
Pay for your misery. That is crazy.
And I did call, and I did call the police that evening. And I filed a complaint.
That's
but nothing. Of course, nothing happens. Like, what are they going to do?
I know.
So that was for sure the worst day ever. And that was back in 2023. And I still, when I cycle past this place, think about it.
That's crazy.
But one of the best days,
Right.
positive, actually also around the similar time when I moved in, the first year that I was in my new apartment. And we have this gorgeous, where I'm in the garden house, we have this beautiful courtyard, like back garden. And for Berlin Pride, for CSD, I did this amazing kind of big gay brunch in the garden, decorated everything, all the neighbors got involved, bunting everywhere. We had such a good time. And this was, and this was also around my 1 year Berlin anniversary, because I came here in the May and then the Pride is in the, so it was a couple of months around. So it was around that time and it was the summer and it was such a good time. And I really felt like in this moment that I arrived, I was like, gosh, all these friends coming, and I got the new place and I was feeling very accomplished, Yeah, this was, I look back at those pictures. It was such a good day. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Pride Month is, we're already in Pride Month actually.
Next Saturday, CSD.
Next Saturday, CSD. You will be there.
It would be a crime if I wasn't there. For sure. And you better be there with that hat on.
I will definitely be there.
Keep put some glitter on the hat. Get some little things going.
That's actually a good idea.
Yeah. A little flags flying from the hat or something.
I'll look into that. So we hope to see everyone there as well.
For sure.
All right, Lyle, is there anything that you feel like I've left untouched or anything that
I think we have, as we would say in English, we have talked the hind legs off a donkey. We have spoken till the cows come home, I think, as we would say.
Right.
But no, thank you so much for having me, and I hope my insight's been helpful for someone that's maybe thinking about coming to Germany or to Berlin. Don't let me scare you too much. It's actually fine.
No, but I think you really had a very great experiences. I've talked more about, I think it's been
much more positive, of
actually.
course. Yeah. And like I say, I'm still here, still standing strong, so still life in me yet. All good.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. And it has been living life as a Scottish in Germany. We've been with Lyle here. It has been a great segment. Like I said, I've been looking forward to this segment, and now it answers my questions.
I'm glad.
I like the energy.
Yeah.
And of course, we're Onlyfacts. We're Onlyfacts Studios here, and we're Onlyfacts on Instagram. We're Onlyfacts podcast on TikTok. We're Onlyfacts on YouTube. We're Onlyfacts on X. We Onlyfacts as well everywhere. Spotify. Just go on, tune in. Let us know what you think in the comment section below. If there is anything you feel like Lyle hasn't touched or you disagree with, go into the comment section. Let us know what your opinion is. And of course, as always, my name is Livingston. This has been the Only Fact segment. See you next time.